Welcome to Long Brothers Reviews, the show where sibling rivalry meets cinematography as two brothers rate and debate movies past, present, and future. That is my brother Mike.
And that's my brother Todd. And today's movie is Project Almanac, directed by David Israelite, executive produced by Michael Bay, and starring a bunch of kids you've never heard of.
The order of this week's review was decided by which one of us has been a bigger disappointment to our parents, so that means, Mike, you are up first.
Thank you so much. This movie is a teenager thing. Movies about teenagers' problems can be compelling, but movies that think like a teenager cannot. Project Almanac is a time travel picture, but that matters here only so the hero can get the girl and learn a lesson straight out of an after-school special. Project Almanac is two movies in one. The first about building the machine from parts you can get at Home Depot, apparently, and with only cursory knowledge of a high school chemistry book. I think you shout out the glossary to learn it here. The other movie is about doing the opposite of what a teenager would do with a time machine. It's unreal what these kids don't do with the ability to travel through time. Then they pack all the suspense into the last 20 minutes, but by then it's hard to care. This is a teenage daydream, and a dull one at that. I say, Project Almanac, don't bother.
If, like me, you have young children and you're often subjected to Nickelodeon made-for-TV movies, you will see similarities between those shows and Project Almanac. You can almost hear the promo. What happens when Carly and the gang discover a time machine? Find out in the iCarly movie, I Go Back in Time. Even the primary conflict that David, the protagonist, faces could have come straight from a Nickelodeon writer's room session. But it's how that conflict is resolved that makes Project Almanac a much better film than I frankly expected it to be. In fact, I would go so far to say that in the hands of a better director, or quite frankly, even just a better editor, it could have been something on par with the Blair Witch Project. But ultimately, we're left with a film that takes way too long to get up and running, as is often the case with found footage films. It slows to a near stop in the middle, and it completely abandons the found footage style not once but twice, and both times for music montages. Yet, despite the predictability of the first half, the film does do an excellent job of leaving small story elements subtly scattered throughout, so that when the resolution comes together, it's almost Shyamalan-esque, and it's satisfying without being obvious, although my 14-year-old son and I both came up with an ending that we thought would have been better. So, I went into this film with low expectations, but I came out a little bit surprised. And for me, the ultimate yardstick of how good a movie is was I disappointed? Did I feel like I'd been ripped off when I left the theater? I didn't feel that way. So my advice is, why not see it?
Is it possible when you say Shyamalan-esque, you mean confusing and boring?
No. If I meant confusing and boring, I would have said Shyamalan-esque in the sense of The Lady in the Water.
This picture doesn't work, and I don't understand how you could see it and think anything else. They spend 30, 40 minutes just running through Home Depot and trying and failing with the right parts. They're stringing car batteries together. This is the sort of thing that would be aimed at kids it's like Spy Kids 8. Spy Kids go to a Home Depot.
Well, this is the kind of movie, like I said, I went into it with low expectations, but they do a surprising job of making the story, once it got up and running, making it interesting. And so by the time I left, I felt like, well, I got my money's worth.
There is a big surprise in the picture. The surprise is that it didn't go directly to Netflix. There's a great moment when they go back in time, and this is giving nothing away, by the way, where one of the guys encounters himself a few months earlier and writes on the back of his neck with an indelible marker, and as he does, it appears on his own neck. That's a cool idea to watch you interact across time with yourself, but do they do anything with it? No, they make the same mistakes that teenagers would make.
Well, I will grant that I did too, the scene where he writes on his own neck. I thought that was very cleverly done, and they do some of the hackneyed things that you would expect, like we're going to win the lottery, although they put a nice little twist on that. There's the thing, I'm going to go back on this school project I had, and I'm going to make it right. But again, they put a slightly different spin on it. So there are some hints of, like I said, if this had been given to someone a little more talented, it could have been a better movie. I've seen worse, I've seen better, but I didn't feel like I got ripped off.
So to summarize, what you're saying is it's better than being punched in the throat.
Yes,
Yes.
it's better than being punched in the throat.
Better than being punched in the throat. So the first outing here, the Long brothers, we understand my brother's standard for film is that as long as it's better than a punch in the throat, it's worth your money. Everybody take that down. That's it for this episode of the Long Brothers Reviews. To find out more about the show, including when our next review goes live, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter.
And while you're there, you can leave us a message to let us know what movies, past or present, you'd like to hear our opinions on.
And if there's a film that you or a friend don't see eye to eye on, if you'll tell us about it, we might review it right here and settle that bet and tell you who's right.
So, until next time, that's my brother Mike.
And that's my brother Todd saying, take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.